Mental illness is not an excuse to justify bad behavior, to justify bad choices that harm yourself and or harm others. Hello, welcome to my YouTube channel. It's been 8 to 10 years since I was on YouTube, so it's been a minute, and if you watch any of my old videos, no you didn't. I might make a separate video reacting or talking about my old videos because I feel like that me and me now are very different people, but I'll save that for a different video. I wanted to talk about cheating and share my experiences with cheating because I have been cheated on once before, and I have in fact cheated as well. So if you're up for listening, thank you for staying and listening. Grab a seat, get comfy with me because I'm on my couch right now. So that's how we're doing this. This is a comfy video pod. My channel is a safe space, so if today this video about cheating triggers you at any point, please be mindful of yourself, take care of yourself, and, pause and take a break. If you want to keep watching, you don't have to, but if you do, I appreciate it. Thank you for taking the time to watch my video. All right, let's get into it. The first time I got cheated on was back when I was a young adolescent, around like 14, 15, and it was within my first relationship, my first committed relationship. That relationship, long story short, lasted for about 4 years, and it was a very unhealthy relationship. It was very on and off. It was very one-sided, and just to give you a good picture, I was the one that was very head over heels, and the other person wasn't as head over heels, but still kind of want me to stick around, And I know a lot of you might be thinking, trying to be supportive and comforting by saying, or you're young, you don't really know what love is, and it's okay. And I personally disagree. I do believe that even if you're young and if you feel like you were in love, I choose not to invalidate my young self or and her feelings. I believe I was in love for what I believed to be love was at that time. So young me was truly in love with this poopy face. For the sake of the story, the first significant other will be named Jay. That's really not hiding anything because his name starts with a J, and at some point within the relationship, I wasn't entirely sure, again, whether or not we were actually together because, again, we were like on and off. So sometimes I just wasn't sure. There were many times where he just wanted to break up because he usually found somebody else he wanted to go out with. Anyway, around the time when he cheated, I wanted to go ahead and consider him cheating because I wasn't entirely sure if we were even actually together or not. But during that moment, it genuinely felt like we were still technically in a relationship, nor like we didn't clarify whether or not we had broken up again. And I found out through his brother, text-wise, his older brother, and apparently I found out that he had made out with a different girl because he was dared to. And his older brother, as he was telling me that, Jay did kind of confirm it later on. But when I first heard that, my poor teen self, I've never felt that kind of intense pain in my chest before. Like when I first read the whole he made out with a different girl because he was dared to, I felt like a really intense pain in my chest, and I genuinely felt like I was going to just start puking. And as I was about to what I felt like what I thought was going to be puke, I just started bawling my eyes out. I was crying so hard. And I cried for a very long time. And it just hurt really, really bad. Anyway, that relationship afterwards kind of stayed on and off for a little bit longer after that. I definitely didn't really know any better during that time, but that leads me to my next relationship, my previous relationship, as of right now, my previous relationship. I met somebody else named, we're gonna name him Zach. For the people that know me, no, you don't. For the sake of the story, his name is Zach. And so after I finally ended things with Jay, I met Zach. And Zach was a whole 180 different from Jay. Like, he was extremely kind. He was extremely caring. He was very interested in me and very, like, engaging. And he was just like, after I met Zach, I thought to myself, oh, so this is what it feels like to be in a mutually loving relationship. Nice. And that relationship lasted for almost 5 years. And I wanted to consider that being my first real love. And I'll still consider it my first real love. I feel like my relationship with Jay, I would still consider it love that I felt at that time for what I believe love to be at that time. But once I finally met someone who was actually, sincerely loving, unconditionally, I was like, oh, okay, so this is what mutual love is and respectful love is. And I was really happy. We were both really happy. But as the years went by, neither of us were perfect. And this was during my adolescent years, my prefrontal cortex, my prefrontal cortex was not developed yet. So I had a lot of insecurities, a lot of anxieties that I had yet to really confront and work on. And a couple of years recently, I've only started to really work on them. So during my relationship with Zach, before the end, unfortunately, near the end of our relationship, before we broke up, I actually reconnected with Jay. And I hadn't talked to Jay for, a couple of years since we had broke up, I guess. And, it had been a couple of years, and you'd think, I think I was like 21, 22 around that time. And I thought to myself, oh, we're both adults. We're both different people now. We're both mature. So Jay and I started reconnecting through text, and not in person because Jay lived in a different state at the time. And we were keeping everything platonic when we were talking for a good bit. Then at some point, I went on a family trip for about 2 weeks. And I told my partner at the time, Zach, that because due to our issues at the moment, and my issues really, I thought it would be best to take like a break, not a break from the relationship, but like a break from talking. And I figured that maybe this would be a great way for both of us to really miss each other, even though like he already like missed me a lot. And it's not that I didn't miss him. I did, but for whatever reason, I felt like I was missing something. And I do think that this contributes to the self-destructive behavior. Missing that whole feeling of like when you first get to know somebody, or that feeling of like, oh, something, I wouldn't say naughty, but like doing something wrong feels good. And that's terrible. The laughing is a coping mechanism. During my family trip, Jay and I stayed connected during then, and we were using Snapchat. And at some point, and Jay was actually technically in a relationship with somebody else during that time, and we were both just kind of going through it in our relationships. Jay wasn't really happy in his relationship at the moment. I was also like just going through it in my relationship. I didn't, at this point in time, like I didn't miss Jay. I know he was like one of my first boyfriends, my first partner, the first guy I fell in love with. And at that time, I didn't miss him. I didn't want to like be with him again. I very much loved my partner, Zach, and I was very happy with our relationship. But again, I was in a very self-destructive state during this moment. And so we were talking, and then the talking did, in fact, lead to just flirting. And one thing led to the other. And we did partake in something that me and my partner at the time would be considered as cheating. I won't go into details, but I will say that what I did, and I knew what I was doing, was cheating. And it's unfortunate because before I did it and after I did it, I knew what I was about to do was wrong. I knew what it was getting to was wrong. And I knew that I should stop. And my intentions, I never had any intentions of hurting my partner at the time, of hurting Zach at all. Like, that's not at all what I wanted. And I knew that it would break his heart. And for whatever reason, my self-destructive behavior took over. And I'm not saying that as in like to justify, like, you know, it wasn't me making those choices. It was my self-destructive behavior. Like, no, I was making those choices. I still made those choices consciously. And I did, in fact, suffer the consequences afterwards. And I do feel that during that time, I think a part of me definitely didn't want to hurt my partner, but at the same time, I think a part of me at that time, because of how insecure I was, I felt that I deserved to be seen as like a monster, a heartbreaker, you know, et cetera, et cetera. Like, you know, Zach definitely deserves better than me. But again, what I did was terrible, was heartbreaking, was very inconsiderate, was very disrespectful, and very disloyal. And if you're wondering why I'm just talking about this so casually, trust me, after it happened, it has taken me a good amount of years to finally get to a place where I gave myself closure and forgave myself. I did, in fact, tell my partner at the time, Zach, I did tell Zach after it had happened, the moment I got back from the trip, I immediately talked to him like a day or two afterwards and told him what happened. And I told him how, you know, how bad I felt, how guilty I felt, and it was terrible, it was wrong, and I'm very sorry, and I regret it. And it was going to take him a while to want to forgive me, which is understandable, but I genuinely regretted it, and his heart was broken. It didn't feel good. So unfortunately, I was going through a very painful, self-destructive phase. I was experiencing a lot of insecurities. I was going about them in a very unhealthy manner, a lot of toxic tendencies, and I was just very self-destructive. And I had no idea why, because again, I just never took the time during that time to really confront my insecurities and really work on them. Mental illness is not an excuse to justify bad behavior, to justify bad choices that harm yourself and or harm others. You know the term, once a cheater, always a cheater? Personally, I don't believe in that term, in that concept. I believe that someone can cheat, but I also believe that if someone cheats, it's possible for them to regret it sincerely and never want to do it again and never do it again. I do believe that some people just unfortunately struggle with loyalty and struggle with commitment. That's a separate matter. But I don't believe that once someone cheats, they're going to continue cheating. I think that cheating is a very conscious choice that someone can make. And I think it's a very self-destructive choice to make. I do believe people will cheat because they don't care. I do believe people will cheat because they're not being very considerate enough of the relationship. Hello, interruption. I am momentarily editing the video, but I just realized that I forgot to add a couple things in. That is, I don't believe that cheating is ever okay, regardless of the circumstance of your relationship. And I'm speaking specifically on relationships where you are just unhappy and you could easily leave the relationship. I'm not talking about relationships that include very physically abusiveness, and I won't speak on that. It's a more sensitive topic. And I also wanted to include a memory I had where I was opening up about my cheating to a family member, and they wanted to be supportive and comforting and told me, well, if your partner just didn't fail to keep you happy, then you wouldn't have cheated. And in my heart, I strongly disagreed. What I did was wrong, and I shouldn't have done it. And it's not my partner's job to keep me happy. It's not my partner's job to do things to make sure that I don't cheat. The person's job to make sure I don't cheat is my job. It's my job to make sure that I can keep myself in check and become self-aware and self-reflect and prevent myself from making harmful, bad decisions. So anyway, cheating is never okay. All right, back to the video. My mistake was allowing that to happen when I knew it was wrong. And what I should have done was end the conversation, the communication with Jay before it went down that way, but that's not what I did. And again, I did suffer the consequences afterwards. After that, I went through, that was 2017 when that happened, the breakup, the cheating and everything. And again, afterwards, I was going down a journey of just self-destruction. I was beating myself up. I went to parties and drank a lot just to fill the void, just to not feel anything, just not to confront what it is, not to confront my actual problem internally, which led me down to a very traumatizing experience that also led me to have PTSD for a good while. But that's an event that I'll save for a completely different video. And after all of that, after making all the bad decisions, I finally came to a place where, I was by myself, and I was starting to finally confront all of the bad decisions and all of the consequences that I'm facing, the harm that I did, not only to myself, but to the relationships I had with the other people that were in my life at the time. And it was just extremely eye-opening and extremely heartbreaking and extremely humbling. I don't think that might have been like the next moment of me feeling like complete heartbreak, because I was acknowledging my decisions that I consciously made. And I was just crying and screaming to myself, why did I do that? I can't take any of it back, What I did already happened. And of course, I regret it. I regret it wholeheartedly. And not too long after, before I was like single for a complete year, I met my present partner, Alex. And right before we got together, I had already made the decision that I was going to work on myself, that I wanted to really focus on becoming a better version of myself, becoming better about confronting my insecurities and really holding myself accountable to bad decisions and harmful language, or just I want to be the best version of myself I know I can be. And by doing so, I want to constantly hold myself accountable, and I also want to be able to do that for the people around me. Before Alex and I started dating, I told him first-handedly that, listen, before we start dating, I want to tell you some things that I went through before we continue this journey of ours. and went ahead and told him about the previous relationship that I was in. I immediately told him how I cheated in my previous relationship. I told him about the trauma that I've been through, and I told him how, I'm really working on myself. So this is where I'm at right now. This is the person that I am right now. I am someone who is really trying to work on herself and try to be a better version of myself. And I've made a lot of bad mistakes not too long ago. Do you still want to date me? That's what happened. And now we've been together for almost 5 years. And if you're wondering, how do I know? How do we know? How do you know that I won't cheat again? And like I said earlier, I absolutely regret it 100% what I did. If I could, I would take it back. I would have never made those decisions if I could, but what happened already, and it was really shitty of me to do. And I know there's a lot of people that probably talk about me and what I did, and it happens. I can't control that. All I can control is how I go about this entire thing and what I do in reaction of my emotions. So that's what I'm doing, is finally sharing one of my truths. I got cheated on a long time ago, and then I cheated on somebody else, and it sucked. And Zach didn't deserve it at all. I was sincerely terrible during that time, and I take absolutely no pride in it. I don't believe in that term or the concept of have no regrets. Regrets. Live your life without regrets. I believe that that's wrong. I believe that it's good to have regrets, because that's what leads you to grow. That's what leads you to want to do better and make better choices. And, we learn from our mistakes. We learn from our regrets. So I have a lot of regrets. I have surrounded myself with a lot of very positive, very healthy, very enriching relationships. The friends I have in my life right now are fantastic, and a lot of them hold me accountable. A lot of them support me and encourage me and are just wonderful and positive influences in my life, including my partner, Alex. And so I'm in a better place, and I know I can admit confidently that I would never, ever do something like that ever again. I don't ever want to hurt my partner. And I'm in a place where if I ever start to feel self-destructive and insecure and missing the whole, the first feelings or wanting to do something bad because it feels good. If I ever start to feel that way, I know now that I am very much more capable at this point to communicate those feelings to my partner and to those around me that I'm close to receive some help and some guidance and express those kinds of feelings in a more healthier manner. And I'm very proud of myself for all the work that I've done these past couple of years. It's been hard. It's been really hard. I had been guilting, and it took me a long time to really, truly forgive myself. But I finally did. And if you're in the same boat, or if you've experienced the same things, if you've been cheated on, I just want to say I'm really sorry. It sucks. But if you have cheated and you regret it wholeheartedly, and it's been a long time, and you're still beating yourself up, just know that, don't beat yourself up too hard. As long as you know that you regret it, as long as you know that you're going to do the work to hold yourself accountable and make the changes that are needed to, make up for your mistakes and bad choices or harmful choices, then that's when you can start making the first step to forgiving yourself and growing, becoming better. So thank you so much for taking the time to listen to me and watch my video. I'm going to record many other videos very similar like this, where I just wanted to be able to open up and be vulnerable, just so that everyone else can feel related too, if that makes sense. This is a safe space, and I want to surround myself with other people who are also safe as well. And yeah, I just want to spread kindness and show that it's possible to hold yourself accountable, even when it's really hard and uncomfortable a lot of the times, but it's possible. I hope you have a really great rest of your day. Thank you again for watching. I hope to see you in the next video. Let me know what you thought. Let me know your opinions. Please remember to be kind and respectful in the comments if you do decide to comment. And yeah, I appreciate it. I hope you're kind to yourself because you deserve it. You really, really do.